Mr. Speaker.
Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Edmonton Gold Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today to introduce to you and members of the Assembly a guest from Prince Edward Island, Mr. Ron McKinley. Mr. McKinley is a member of the Legislative Assembly of Prince Edward Island representing 2nd Queens. He's seated in your gallery, Mr. Speaker, and I'd ask him to rise to receive the warm welcome of the members of this House.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Whiteman.
Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order 15.6, I wish to give notice of the following motion, that the matter of privilege raised by the Honourable Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services on June the 22nd, 1990, and subsequently ruled to be prima facie case of privilege by the Speaker be referred to the Standing Committee on Privileges, Elections, Standing Orders, and Printing for consideration and recommendation, and that the committee be instructed to call witnesses and documentation required by any member of the Legislative Assembly to establish the validity of the statements regarding the pattern of use of lottery revenues made by the member from Edmonton Whitemud, and further that the committee hold all of its deliberations in public.
The chair would point out that the member has just put a motion on notice. The chair would also point out that the Assembly will have to decide with regard to some irregularities that perhaps seem to be there, one of which that the committee itself would determine who calls witnesses and documents, whereas the honourable member has suggested that any member of the Assembly, and that is at variance with what the procedure would be with regard to a committee. Secondly, the matter prima facie case of privilege dealt with comments made in the House with regard to some specific matters, not to the whole subject matter of lottery funds.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce the bill being the Environmental Impact Assessment Act. This bill is about how we make decisions about our future. It's a state-of-the-art legislation that guarantees public involvement and right to information.
The honourable member for Edmonton Jasper Place has moved first reading to Bill 239, Environmental Impact Assessment Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 239, Environmental Impact Assessment Act, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mr. McGuinness, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to table with the Legislative Assembly 4 copies of the annual report for Alberta Recreation and Parks for the year ended March 31st, 1989.
Solicitor General. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to table today to the Assembly the annual report of the Health Disciplines Board for the year ending December 31st, 1989.
Minister of Occupational Health and Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the annual report of Occupation Health and Safety Council for the year ending December 1988.
Introduction of special guests.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly visiting scholars from the People's Republic of China who will be spending the next few days participating in an exchange program with the Faculty of Business at the University of Alberta. Our guests, Mr. Speaker, are seated in the members' gallery. Professor Gu and Professor Bao from Young-Soo Academy of Social Sciences, Professor Chen, Professor Young from Xi'an University, and scholars are Ms. Liu, Mr. Tung, Ms. Chu from Xi'an University, and Ms. Monica Wagner from the Faculty of Business, University of Alberta, who is the coordinator of the visit. I would ask, Mr. Speaker, that our visitors stand and receive the usual warm welcome from the members of the Assembly.
Edmonton Jasper Clay.
I would like to introduce three very special guests in the gallery from Edmonton Jasper Place. They are Miss Catherine McInnes, Miss Julia McInnes, and Miss Emily McInnes. They're my daughters. The way this place operates, they have to come here to see me, and they're accompanied by their Babu is my mother-in-law, Sophie Lyson.
Redwater Andrew.
It's a pleasure for me to introduce to you and through you a special person or two people to me, and a young chap that's a student from the New Sarept junior high school and visiting the legislature for the first time, and also my godson, Lee Lindbergh, and his mother Maxine. They're seated in the members' gallery. I ask they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question.
Ministerial statements. Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me a great pleasure to announce today plans for the establishment of Rumsey Ecological Reserve, Alberta's 12th Ecological Reserve. Rumsey Ecological Reserve, located approximately 30 miles north of Drumheller, represents a large non-sand plain aspen parkland. The establishment of Rumsey is of provincial, if not international significance, as it is the largest remaining aspen parkland area of its kind in the world. Encompassing 8,398 acres of native vegetation on rolling terrain, Rumsey Ecological Reserve is valued for its size and undisturbed landscape. Mr. Speaker, Alberta's white zone is only 39% of the province. Therefore, it's important to protect Rumsey from further population encroachments. In the past, land use patterns such as clearing and cultivating have eliminated or altered much of the native vegetation found throughout the aspen parkland areas of North America. Very little of the native parkland still exists, and it is our duty as a trustee of public lands of Alberta to establish an ecological reserve in this area. The Alberta government recognizes that preservation of natural environments and the plants and animals they sustain is fundamental to advances in industries such as agriculture, forestry, and medicine. As such, these protected areas serve as outdoor classrooms and laboratories for environmental education and scientific research. They also allow us an opportunity to study how natural processes shape our environment. With more than 275 kinds of native plants, over 85 species of birds, and a variety of mammals found on the site, Albertans will be able to preserve a habitat for these purposes. Most important of all, Mr. Speaker, the establishment of ecological reserves across Alberta are tangible evidence of Alberta's commitment to share the land with its other habitants. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the 12 members of the Advisory Committee on Wilderness Areas and Ecological Reserves for their support and continuing work on the committee. The guiding principles of the Advisory Committee is reconciling the system of wilderness areas and ecological reserves in Alberta with the many interests of the public as whole. As representatives of the citizens of Alberta, their knowledge and support are invaluable. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to working with the members of the Advisory Committee and all Albertans in protecting Alberta's environment through the Rumsey Ecological Reserve.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, in replying to the ministerial announcement, I don't have it in front of me, but I would say that we certainly support, as the minister would be well aware, this has been raised by my colleague a number of times in the legislature, so we certainly support this proposal around Rumsey. There aren't many original ecological areas left in the world, frankly. We're still fortunate that we can protect an area like Rumsey, but I would say to the minister that there are still 14 of 17 ecological zones not well enough protected in the province, and I hope that this is a start, Mr. Speaker, when we're looking at Rumsey, this is a start in looking into some other areas. It's not, as the minister said at one time, that wilderness protection was a land grab. I take it now by his new announcement about Rumsey, he no longer considers that a land grab, Mr. Speaker. But we will look forward. We certainly support, again, this initiative. Congratulate the minister for it, and we look forward to the other activity in the other 14 areas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral question period.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister announced the sale of certain assets of Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Mr. Speaker, and frankly over the last few years Albertans have watched in horror as more and more tax dollars were pumped into AMHC. It really was the next best thing to a bottomless pit, Mr. Speaker. The figures are staggering. Up to the present time, Mr. Speaker, $830 million has been used for write-downs and losses. The corporation has a total debt of $4.5 billion, Mr. Speaker. If there was ever a glowing example of mismanagement by this government, Mr. Speaker, AMHC is certainly it. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest, though, with the recent announcement, the minister has a credibility problem. And my question to the minister is this. How is the Minister of Municipal Affairs planning to convince Alberta taxpayers that this isn't just a fire sale to cover up their mismanagement?
Mr. Speaker, to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, first of all, in asking the question, the Honourable Leader should be clear in laying out the numbers so that they're understood by those that are recipients of those numbers. When we speak of $4.4 billion as a debt figure, that number, that statement is a misleading statement, and it can in no way be allowed to continue. What we must understand very clearly so that the public understands and are not misled by a statement like that, those monies were monies that came from the Heritage Fund through debenture loans from the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. The obligation of the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation is back to the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. Those commitments are being made. Those commitments to the Heritage Fund are being made. The shortfall, if in cases where property was devaluated, either real estate, land, or buildings, an obligation is taken by the Treasury. And we should be very clear about that, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, when we speak in terms of the the single-family mortgages of $620 million that are being sold to the private sector starting as of today, those mortgages are of full value, $620 million. The sale will proceed to the private sector. It is my intent to turn, at the completion of that sale, by the end of 1990, a sum of money over $600 million back to the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. That is the intent of the announcement, and that is the commitment that I've made in that announcement yesterday as of this legislature. We should be clear about that, Mr. Speaker. And it's unfair of the Leader of the Opposition, though he may want to score some brownie points on a good announcement we have made, a very credible announcement in the public of Alberta, but if he wants to score brownie points, lay it out based on the facts of the situation.
Right on. Mr. Speaker, getting brownie points from this government, I assure you, is not a hard task ever, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the fact is, it is a $4.5 million debt. It's from your figures, That's Mr. Right. Speaker. It is owed, admittedly, to the Heritage Trust Fund and the General Revenue. I don't know how you're ever going to pay it back, Mr. Speaker, when you don't have any assets. You're selling off all the profitable assets, Mr. Speaker, and keeping the dogs. I mean, this is a debt that we'll have forever. But the fact is, clearly from their own figures, that debt is around $4.5 billion. You can't get around that, Mr. Speaker. And I want to ask the minister this. Can the minister tell Albertans and give us the figures, just how many of their tax dollars Albertans will have had to cough up for AMHC thanks to this government's mismanagement?
Mr. Speaker, when a person, an individual, takes a loan from a lending institution, whether it be, in this case, the Heritage Savings Trust Fund or a bank that we have, Toronto Dominion, Nova Scotia, you have an obligation to repay that debt. There is an obligation on the part of the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation to repay the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, and the steps that I am taking in the review as the minister responsible has that intent in mind. And one of the first major steps that we are taking is the step taken yesterday, whereby we are selling $620 million of single-family mortgages, which will return to the Heritage Savings Trust Fund a major payment of over $600 million. Now that's putting the money in place. Now, some of the portfolio was devalued, that lost value after the years 1981 and part of 1982 on investments. In that part of the portfolio, there is a major portion of what is called unfunded debt. We do not know what the funded debt will be until the assets are dealt with. And that is why in the review and in the administrative steps and in the policy that's being carried forward by this government, through Cabinet, through caucus, our intent is to remove as many assets and sell into the private market those assets and recover a major portion of the investments. What we have to recognize, in the annual report, the last annual report, the unfunded debt was somewhere in the vicinity of $600 million. We cannot at this point say what the funded debt will be until we deal with the assets. And in my estimation, it will be much less than $600 million. So any type of statement from the Honourable...
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Order, please. Order. Save some for the final supplementary.
I can imagine getting that answer if the member was sitting over here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but the minister avoided the question. As of March 1989, $1.73 billion of taxpayers' money had been thrown at this mess. It's now $2.1 billion, Mr. Speaker, and the government's selling off the viable assets right now, Mr. Speaker, in the mortgage portfolio and making the taxpayers hang on to the non-performing duds. I don't know how you're ever going to knock a debt down doing that, Mr. Speaker, but my question to the minister, how does selling off the best of the assets in the mortgage department and keeping the worst of the portfolios makes economic sense to the taxpayers of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, the administrative the responsibility that I have in dealing with this matter is to take each item one step at a time. In the major portfolio of mortgages, the total portfolio is valued over $2 billion. A major part of that portfolio, $1.2 billion, is one that we're dealing with as well. In the question and the preamble of the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, his facts and descriptions tell me very clearly that he doesn't even understand what's going on. Right. So how in the world can he even answer the question that he raises? Where he comes up with $1.7 billion, I don't know where he finds that. So when there's credibility to the question, Mr. Speaker, then I can give some credibility and credence to the answer. But the way the question's answered, the honourable member doesn't even understand what he's asking.
Mr. Speaker, it was an answer to a written question that was given by the government, Mr. Speaker, but I guess you can't believe them then, Mr.
That's
Speaker.
right, you sure
Mr.
can.
Speaker, my second question is to the Minister of the Environment, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, good luck.
Mr. Speaker, there's a very interesting open letter published in the press today from the general manager of Stelco Steel in Edmonton. The company claims, Mr. Speaker, its future in this city is uncertain thanks to government actions that will result in enormous increases in their cost of electricity. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Environment must be familiar with the company. It recycles used steel from a wide variety of sources, an activity, I hope at least, that the Minister of Environment supports. I'm also assuming that the Minister would oppose any government initiatives that would result in the company shutting down and moving its operations to another province, Mr.
Hear,
Speaker,
hear.
and he says he believes in recycling. My question to the Minister is this, Mr. Speaker. What is the Minister doing to ensure that this valuable recycling company will still be viable in the face of government plans to hike electricity rates?
Well, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the environmental components of this particular situation, I will have to take that under notice. I haven't read the article to which the honourable member alludes, and I'll have to take that under notice. But with respect to the energy component of the question, I would like to defer to my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Energy.
And Utilities.
Mr. Speaker, I take it your high-paid advisors look through things, Mr. Speaker. It's a rather major document, but Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure who to ask, who's in charge of what over there anymore, Mr. Speaker, but I want to stay on the recycling end of it, Mr. Speaker, because the Minister's told us that he will be bringing in some initiatives. I would point out to the Minister that 570 Albertans are employed here, Mr. Speaker, that losing this company would be a serious loss both for our environment and our economy, Mr. Speaker. And we've had plants shut down in Alberta, recycling plant in Medicine Hat, plastics recycling in Edmonton, and now this could be the next, Mr. Speaker. My question then to the Minister, is the Minister prepared to go to Cabinet and use his responsibility as the Minister of Environment and suggest that something should be done about the particular electricity rate increases to keep this company viable in Alberta? Is he prepared to do that?
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the recycling component, and from an environmental point of view, of course we're keen on seeing recycling industries maintained in this province. As a matter of fact, that's the objective of the proposed comprehensive waste minimization and recycling program, and we'll be reading and hearing and seeing a lot more about that in the not too distant future. With respect to the energy component, it's something that I will have to discuss with my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Energy, and to do a full-scale examination of the facts. I'm sorry I have not had a briefing on this particular situation. I haven't had a briefing on anything today. I've been caught up in a number of other things, and I would like to have the opportunity to talk to my department, to discuss this matter with my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Energy, and my other colleagues in government.
This shouldn't come as a surprise, Mr. Speaker. People have been complaining. I'm not going to get into the bill that will be debated later on has to do partly with Bill 26. The minister should have been aware of that to begin with, Mr. Speaker. But then following up from the minister and taking his word on it, Mr. Speaker, that he will discuss this with his colleagues, would he be prepared, and after looking at this, be prepared to make the case to Cabinet, Mr. Speaker, to give this recycling company and other Albertans who will be hurt by this hike in electricity a chance to state their case before these increases are pushed through? Will he give his commitment that he would stand up and do that as his role as the Minister of the Environment?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, the question should more appropriately be dealt to the Minister of Energy in that, firstly, because the Leader of the Opposition is misleading this Assembly, Mr. Speaker. He is making some allegations, firstly, that somehow the government sets the rates for utilities in this province, and I can tell him, and he well knows, that the Public Utilities Board sets rates in this province. Also tell a member that in the event there are a series of rate increases that do occur in this province, it will still mean that Alberta will have the lowest level of electrical generation for industrial... Read my lips, Mr. Speaker. We will have the lowest level of industrial rates in the country. That's anticipating any increases that the PUB has before them, whether or not they agree with those increases. And Mr. Speaker, this is the place to be in 1990, high electrical rates or not. We keep the electrical rates low. That's one part of the component. We have a percentage point away from the lowest corporate income taxes. We have Nova planning $2 to $3 billion expansion of their pipelines, Mr. Speaker. If I was in the steel business, I'd want to be in this province right here.
Calgary Northwest.
I withdraw misleading the Assembly. I know I would certainly have to if I brought it up.
Hear, hear.
Honorable Minister of Energy, how would you like to do it?
I withdraw the comment, Mr. Speaker.
Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. In 1988, there were some amendments made to the Municipal Taxation Act that affect the property tax that was payable by properties that were leased by municipalities to secondary users. Now, although the intent of this move was a positive attempt to clarify some inequities, it's ended up creating more problems than it has solved, and the result has been that with some conversations that I've had with a variety of municipalities, including the City of Calgary, the City of Edmonton, it's clear now that there are several administrative nightmares that have resulted from the changes that occurred in 1988. And my question to the Minister is simply this: given that the Mayor of the City of Calgary, His Worship Al Dewar, has contacted the Minister about this issue, my question is, what does the Minister intend to do to clarify and rectify this very serious situation?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member raises a very important concern with regards to taxation. I've given the commitment to the mayor and others that have been in contact with me that I would review that matter and try and clarify it the best I could, and if it needs a legislative change at the appropriate time, I'd be willing to do that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Speaker. Since the concerns that have been raised by the municipalities could result, in fact, in the municipalities that are affected incurring an additional expense regarding the school foundation levies, is the Minister of Municipal Affairs going to meet with the Education Minister to consider some method of reimbursing those municipalities for those extra costs regarding...
Mr. Speaker, we haven't determined what the extra cost would be at this point in time, but it would certainly be my intent as we work through the difficulty to have a conversation with the Minister of Education on the matter and try and do that as quickly as we can to give notice to the municipalities as to what can be done and what cannot be done at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Finally, I'm glad to hear that the Minister is considering amendments. Will he also agree to meet with and consult with those municipalities that are affected, because I think they can have the greatest input on possible changes that are necessary?
Mr. Speaker, that's certainly a good suggestion. I have met with some of them up to this point, but prior to finalizing the decision, I can give the honourable member a commitment that I'll meet with any municipalities that he would recommend or any other persons that I have on the list that I've been tabulating.
Overbar.
To the Minister of Transportation and Utilities, appropriate road right-of-way is required and has been designated from the Cooking Lake Natural Area in 1987 for the proposed improvement of Secondary Road 630, which is an important transportation link in Clover Bar. The standards for secondary roads, both for design and right-of-way, are set by the Minister through his department. Can the Minister advise this House, the County of Strathcona, and my constituents that it is essential for proper road design, that there be adequate road right-of-way for the Y Road for essential proper road design so that the safety of the traveling public is assured?
Mr. Speaker, the county roads are the responsibility of the county, and they are to provide for any right-of-way, whatever it be, within the terms and conditions of the agreement. So I would suggest that if the county were asking for upgrading of a secondary road, that they would have to access, obtain, pay for, free of all encumbrances, the right-of-way for that road.
Well, Mr. Speaker, perhaps I should shift to the Minister of Environment on this matter. The Minister has received representation, including a petition from residents in my area, with respect to the 12.9 acres for road widening required for Secondary Road 630. It's claimed that such widening will destroy unique water plants. In response to a question yesterday, the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife assured me that in his department's view, that the widening will not eliminate endangered and threatened species of plant wildlife. Would the Minister of Environment, would the Minister advise if he will require an environmental impact assessment for the proposed upgrading of Secondary Road 630?
Indeed, we have received a petition and other representations from people in the area relative to Y Road. The department now is assessing the situation as it pertains to environmental concerns, and hopefully they will have a recommendation to me very soon with respect to whether an environmental impact assessment is required.
Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Occupational Health and Safety. And I note that the Occupational Health and Safety Department has responded to the recent asbestos exposure of Suncor workers by announcing that the government plans to bring in improved asbestos regulations that have not been changed since 1982. However, upon checking with the asbestos workers and their union, I was shocked to find out that indeed the department and the minister himself have refused to allow them, the very people who are going to have to deal with asbestos, to examine these draft regulations and to offer their input. So I'd like to ask the minister, since he says his door is open, but it appears his mind must be closed, can he explain why he won't give these workers the opportunity to review these draft regulations and offer their input? Is it because he's not really serious about improving these regulations?
Mr. Speaker, every question the honourable member asks across the way, he has to add an insult to it, and he's added another one this time. I've asked the department to work with everybody in regards to asbestos regulations, and they are out now for review by the workers, by unions, by industry, and by government, and they should be coming forward. So to suggest that we don't have an open door is wrong, and to suggest we're not moving with it is wrong.
Well, that's another typical answer from this minister. But, Mr. Speaker, given that in the past year in this province we've had workers who have been chlorine gassed, lead poisoned, asbestos exposed, crushed, maimed, and burned to death, can we ask this minister why, since he's been minister for 14 months, he hasn't introduced one single new health and safety regulation? Not one!
Mr. Speaker, taking over the portfolio some 14 months ago, we have on file a number of regulations that I'm looking at, and I've asked that. And what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, is we're having the industry involved, we're having the tradespeople involved, we're having the workers involved. And as we go through those steps, those regulations will come forward. But to suggest we have to introduce something, we will when we're ready, and it will confirm with the wishes of Albertans.
Calgary Buffalo. Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is further to a question already raised by the Leader of the Opposition. It relates to the full-page ads in the paper today by Stelco, which expressed concern about the proposed 35% increase in electrical rates. Now, increased rates are impacting businesses not just in Edmonton, Mr. Speaker, but all over the province. And the federal and provincial governments have been adding to this problem by their recent policies, which are putting privately owned electrical utilities in Alberta at some disadvantage in respect of almost all other electrical utilities across the country, which are publicly owned and not taxable. And I'm wondering if the Minister of Energy would care to enlarge on his earlier comment and answer this question, and that is that since the Minister states that we have the lowest energy rates in this country and that this does help our competitiveness, why are we moving to eliminate or reduce this advantage we have by increasing the electrical costs of companies such as Stelco by 4.4% through eliminating that advantage?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I indicated earlier in the Assembly, with all of the proposed rate increases, including rate design, the GST, the removal of the subsidy, Alberta will continue to have the lowest rate for industrial consumers by a wide margin over any other province in this country. Mr. Speaker, the member for Edmonton Norwood asked about Saskatchewan. Our rates in 1989 were $83 on average per 5,000 kilowatt hour. Saskatchewan's was $164, Mr. Speaker. So they're not even in the ballpark. Mr. Speaker, the most important component of this is that the consumers of electrical energy in this province have not received a rate increase since 1986. The cumulative effect of inflation has been between 22 and 25%. So I'm pleased, Mr. Speaker, to see the member for Edmonton Norwood and member for Calgary Buffalo standing up for big business. I think it is very important that they recognize the importance of big business to this province. Now, Mr. Speaker, the general manager for Stelco is doing his job. He is trying to keep his input costs as low as possible for his shareholders in every way that he sees fit. Mr. Speaker, this government, for its shareholders, the people of Alberta, are going to keep its costs as low as possible, moving towards a balanced budget in our next budget year. We have our responsibilities. They have their responsibilities. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, again, we will continue to have the lowest electrical rates for industrial consumers of any province in Canada. That's the bottom line, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this government's actions impact all Albertans, and we won't have the lowest rates if the federal government follows the province's suit and eliminates their tax rebate, and they've already frozen it. I'm wondering how this minister feels that he can go to the federal government and argue that they shouldn't fully end their tax rebate, which they've now frozen, since that's exactly the policy that this provincial government is following.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Calgary Buffalo might want to direct questions with regard to taxation to the provincial treasurer. As the member knows, we have a bill before the Assembly that deals with this issue, and I'm sure he'd be pleased to respond to the honourable member. All I can say, Mr. Speaker, is that decisions as to where corporations locate are based on a number of criteria. One is the taxation regime. We have the lowest in the country here corporately. We're within a percentage point of British Columbia, which is the lowest in the country. Prospects for growth. This province will lead economic growth in this country in 1990. We lead the country in level of educational attainment, Mr. Speaker. Skilled labor force is a key component. We spend more on education than most other jurisdictions. These are all considerations, not just the input costs, Mr. Speaker. We keep all of our skills of prospective employees high, and we keep input costs low, such as taxation. All of these contribute to the attractiveness of Alberta, Mr. Speaker, and that's what we will continue to do. Now, if the members opposite were making a case that Alberta was leaping to the highest level of industrial consumption for electricity, Mr. Speaker, we'd have to listen to the argument. But we will continue to be the lowest. Let me conclude by saying, Mr. Speaker, members opposite know that the Public Utilities Board has quasi-judicial powers to make decisions on what the utility rates would be. Given the assumptions that the members are making, the PUB may consider them or not, all of them, and flow through a rate increase. If they do, I'd still want to be in the province of Alberta if I was doing business today, Mr. Speaker.
Smoky River. Smoky River. Mr. Speaker, after some tough negotiations on behalf of our farmers of Alberta, our Minister of Agriculture was able to develop a joint federal-provincial program, farm aid program, of $100 million. Bills are coming forward, fertilizer bills, fuel bills, the usual spring seeding bills are now coming forward, and farmers are in need of this money at the present time. Could the Minister perhaps give us a bit of a current status as to what the situation is with this announcement?
Mr. Speaker, I can share with the House that the final agreements have been signed off by Agriculture Canada. I believe as recently as yesterday. There's a significant number of applications in that are currently being processed, and we should have checks flowing in the not-too-distant future.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What, to the Minister of Agriculture, what do you mean by the not-too-distant future? The farmers are in need of money, and they have to talk to their bankers, and they have to talk to their fuel agents, and they have to talk to their fertilizer dealers, and I'm sure that not-too-distant future is not adequate. Could you perhaps give us some added insight as to just how soon they may expect some of this money to start flowing?
Depending on when the agreement is couriered back today, the first of the checks may hit the mail today. If they don't hit the mail today, the checks will, tomorrow. If they don't start flowing tomorrow, they will be flowing on Tuesday.
Calgary Mountain Dew.
Mr. Speaker, the final result, after many months of talk between the province and the Lubicon, is that yesterday the government advised the Lubicon that it rejects the land settlement proposal that the band had prepared for discussions with the province. It further appears, Mr. Speaker, that the province is not willing to even offer counter proposals to the items that it objects to, so it leaves the Lubicon in exactly the same position they were in 1988 when they set up their blockade. I'd like to ask the Minister of Federal and Intergovernmental Affairs if the Minister would explain to the Assembly of what use is it for the Lubicon to talk with the government if the government is unwilling to actually negotiate by offering counter proposals to the ones tabled by the Lubicon.
This matter is being dealt with by the Attorney General, and the Acting Attorney General will take the question as notice. Supplementary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess it appears that the government is content to do nothing but talk and delay endlessly and continue to bank the royalties that they're getting from oil wells on land never ceded by the Lubicon people. Could the minister then inform the House how the Lubicon people are to interpret the arbitration process that apparently the provincial government has proposed as being nothing other than a delaying tactic, especially when arbitration, which is what the government is suggesting take place now, has been proposed 3 times already and has always been rejected by the federal government?
I will take that question as notice also.
Mr. Place, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government has indicated that a decision will be announced on the ALPAC project later this week or early next week. One suspects as soon as the House has risen. It's becoming quite clear that the government intends only a quick and dirty review of the project to ignore all of the concerns of the EIA Review Board on oxygen, on nutrients in the river, on heavy metals, Aboriginal people, and of course forest management agreements. ALPAC will not have a project without a forest management agreement, and people in Alberta have been crying out over the past year to have an open public review of these forest management agreements. In fact, the Daishao FMA is in court for that very reason. Will the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife assure this House that he will not sign another 20-year forest management agreement for ALPAC without the type of public review recommended in the recommendation 945 of the ALPAC EIA Review Board report?
Mr. Speaker, in due course, we'll be announcing our response to the ALPAC board report, and the honourable member will just have to wait until he hears that answer. In addition to that, I've stated clearly that I'm prepared very soon to announce the public process for forest management planning. That's coming soon. I ask him again, just be patient.
Well, in due course, Mr. Speaker, every last stick of timber in this province will be given away by this government to the international pulp industry. The Minister has been quite successful in avoiding the light of public scrutiny to date. FMAs are not subject, for example, to the Natural Resources Conservation Board. There is a Berlin Wall around the secret negotiations that are being undertaken by this Minister and this government. I suggest, in view of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that the...
Honourable member, please. End of paragraph 2. Let's get to the question.
You caught me in the middle of the question. In view of the fact that the real Berlin Wall has come down, I wonder if the Minister could say how long he thinks the Berlin Wall can stay up around his department.
Mr. Speaker, I'm getting sick and tired of this member's actions. He doesn't care about what's good for Alberta. He only cares about is trying to stonewall and kill projects. Mr. Speaker, I listened carefully to his question, and now he'll have to listen to my answer. We don't give timber away in this province. It's priced competitively, and he knows that. And we will. And there's no Berlin Wall around any projects in this province. And the public participation process that's coming will open it even further. I just ask him again, just be patient.
Last block, Sturgeon.
Mr. Speaker, my question is further to the honourable member from Smoky River to discuss one form of aid to the farmers in the north, but there are two other avenues of funds to flow into the people that have been, the farmers that have been drowned out. The other is the disaster fund run by the honourable member of Public Works, which my surveys plus talking with Unifarm and a few officials up there, apparently only about 50% of the money has been remitted. Now this disaster was last fall, so over 6 months ago. Could the Minister explain what the follow-up is and what's happened to the checks?
Mr. Speaker, I think the importance of this is fact, first of all. When this program was announced several months ago, we talked about, the Premier talked about a program in the value of $15.9 million. To date, Mr. Speaker, to date, we have now allocated $18.9 million under this program. And those are checks sent, Mr. Speaker, dollars paid. And that deals with 2,423 files, Mr. Speaker. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, to date as well, 124 farmers have been assisted under the Disaster Assistance Loan Program that's administered by the Alberta Agricultural Development Corporation, and the total portfolio value of that is $3.654 million. So if you added those two figures together, Mr. Speaker, you'd be looking at approximately $21.6 million. And I indicated a few days ago that it was my hope to have basically all of it cleaned up by the end of June, which is just several more days, and that's my intent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allocated is not sent. It's not in their pocket. The second part of the program is, I believe, under the Minister of Agriculture, and my understanding is about 25% of the payments for crop insurance still have not arrived. Also, the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, is using the excuse that the federal government is what keeps them from paying more for money that is not ready for seeding. Yet the province was able to extend dates for crop insurance. So where does this minister think he's getting off with blaming the federal government on crop insurance when it is within the prerogative of his department to be able to open up the coffers a bit more to help these people?
Mr. Speaker, once again, the honourable member for Waxlock Sturgeon does know nothing about what he speaks. The Alberta Hail and Crop Insurance is a joint federal-provincial agreement. One side cannot change rules without the other side. The extension of the the seeding date from June the 20th, I believe, to June the 25th was a negotiated extension between the partners in that crop insurance program. The honourable member may be right that certain farmers have not received their payouts from 1989 on the grounded out areas in the Peace River region. The Honourable Associate Minister of Agriculture and myself toured that area about 2 weeks ago, and following that tour, the final decision was made that anyone that hadn't managed to harvest the crop, that crop would be written off, because it was now beyond the point of recovering virtually anything out there. That means that appraisers have to go out and do the final assessments or the final write-offs before the final checks arrive. I would say, Mr. Chairman, or Speaker, before I sit down, that there is an ongoing problem in some small sections of the piece that we are assessing at the moment, because there are some producers up there that not only failed to get last year's crop off, but the land was still too wet to do anything and start putting in this year's crop. But let me close in saying, or suggesting, Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member that let's research something so he can ask one good question before the House adjourns.
Highwood. Member for Highwood. Member for Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. During the last federal election, the free trade issue was extremely controversial, and it was mainly because of the uncertainty on how companies would be able to step out and compete in the larger unknown marketplace. What is your department doing to help Alberta companies take advantage of the U.S.-Canada Free Trade Agreement and to reduce that uncertainty?
Mr. Speaker, as we do, this government does with all segments of the population in the province of Alberta, work very closely with the private sector in making sure that they do have an opportunity to access that greater market in the U.S. Over the last number of months, we've had some 23 Let's Talk Trade seminars whereby we have involved in excess of 1,000 registrants. We've also worked with in excess of some 3,000 companies in the province of Alberta. We do, in conjunction, conduct trade missions with the federal government, both incoming and outgoing to the U.S. We recognize the importance of the U.S. market, and we are working hand in hand with the private sector so that our producers have greater access to markets other than our own.
Supplementary, I would hope that these efforts are resulting in penetrating new markets, and what effects are these initiatives having on the creation of new productive jobs in this province?
Mr. Speaker, it was, I believe, somewhere in the vicinity of a month ago, the critics of the Free Trade Agreement suggested that there were some jobs lost because of the trade agreement with the U.S. Mr. Speaker, there is no denying that some jobs were lost in some specific sectors, but what we have to do is look at the net effect. And Stats Canada reports over the past year that in excess of 400,000 jobs on a Canada-wide basis have been created. Mr. Speaker, in addition to that, if we examine the exportation of our goods, we've exported to the U.S. an increase of some 4.1%, 89 over 88. Unemployment fell, and we have had the realization of additional jobs being created both in the province of Alberta and on a Canada-wide basis. Free trade.
Bagerville. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to questions I asked the other day about the escape of some 25 captive elk from a game ranch in the Kitscoty area, the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife said, and I quote from Hansard, There's some investigation underway right now with respect to vandals who have opened up a gate. Now, the Minister of Agriculture repeated the allegation about vandalism in debate later that evening. Vandalism is a criminal act, Mr. Speaker, and our contact with the RCMP detachment in Kitscoty indicates that there is no investigation underway and that they consider it to be an accident. Now, I'd like both ministers to confirm on the record that there is not in fact, an RCMP investigation into this matter going on, and that further that they did not mean to imply by their allegations that opponents of game ranching were somehow responsible for this.
Good. Mr. Speaker, I would ask the honourable member to check anything I said in debate the other night. I at no time suggested that an investigation was going on. I did suggest that there was some allegations that a vandal may have opened a gate, and I didn't suggest where that vandal may come from.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps both ministers will have a chance to read my comments carefully and examine their actions in that light. They both referred to the fact that these elk were somehow vasectomized, and I commented that, what these elk may lack in ability, they make up for with enthusiasm. However, contact with the owners of the elk ranch suggests that they are not, in fact, vasectomized. They are fertile breeding elk. I want to point out that our concern is not with the threat posed or not posed by these elk in that particular area, but surely the ministers have to admit that if we're going to raise elk in captivity, there is a very real threat that those populations will mix with the wild populations, and that there needs to be a scientific assessment of the impact on our precious wildlife resource.
Let's hope so. There again, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for Vegreville is totally incorrect in what he said about both ministers talking about elk being vasectomized. I have difficulty pronouncing that. Have you ever read Hansard, buddy? You try reading it. So again, I would suggest that the honourable member check Hansard before he starts making wrong accusations. Let me also just underline, and I did say this in Hansard, that the fact that these type of escapes can occur, or these types of acts may occur, reinforces the importance of keeping the genetic purity of the animal. And as has been stated before in the House and is outlined clearly in the bill, the responsibility for that genetic purity stays with Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
I'd like to clear up any misconception there might be. The one briefing note I received said that the elk were vasectomized. And on further checking with my department, that is not so, that they are not vasectomized. They were tested and found to be pure, and since they were pure, there was no reason to vasectomize them, so they weren't. And so if I misinformed the House on that particular point, I apologize. Secondly, it has to do with the investigation that's underway. I didn't say there were investigations on by the RCMP or anyone else. It appears that the gates on the McAllister Game Farm were opened by vandals who remain unknown, and that is being looked into. And I don't see where that should be anything unusual. If a game farmer were to lose that number of elk and the cost to him, if it's not being looked into and investigated how it happened, I'd be surprised.
Yes. Orders of the day.